hello everybody. You may
Howdy,
not
howdy.
howdy. You may not realize this, but this is the reboot of episode 2 because I'm a moron and don't know what I'm doing. We recorded a whole episode last night and I didn't record myself. So it was non-workable. You couldn't use it. It was Dill by himself, and a lot of people were like, "I want to hear the Dill cut," but you're not going to get the Dill cut. You're going to get the both of us redo, however you want to say it, for today. So I'm joined, as always, by the real Dill.
Howdy ho, neighbors.
Yep. And there is no Australian dingo, Jared. He's studying for a test. He's got things to do. He's fallen out of an airplane. I don't know what's going on. He was really loud earlier when we tried to talk to him, but he's not going to be joining us. So, and here we are. Through the pandemic, a lot of craziness going on. Dill, what have you been up to?
Well, I finished watching Community, finished watching Avatar The Last Airbender, and I've been doing a lot of sitting around on my butt watching TV.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of people. Like, I haven't really gone anywhere because where am I going to go? I'm going to go eat some Thai food. I can't do that because the restaurants are all closed. Oh, am I going to go see a movie?
Hey.
No. Hey.
I'll tell you what, restaurants opened up 25% occupancy around here, so we went out and ate some crawfish the other day.
Yeah. Have you seen the ones that are putting like sex dolls, like blow up dolls?
No.
Yeah. There's like some places that to make it seem like there's more people there, they bought some sex dolls and blow up dolls and just put clothes on them and just had them sitting all around the restaurant.
Oh my goodness.
That's happening. Yeah.
We're so close to becoming Japan, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, because that happened in Korea too. In Korea they started playing football or soccer games. They call it football outside the US, and they had the sex dolls in the stadium, and they had to issue a public apology because people got so triggered over the sex dolls being in the audience, and they had to take the sex dolls out and everything. So that's what's going on in the world. Sex dolls everywhere. That's your company. I watched the Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which I thought was really good, and I've seen a lot of criticisms, and there is some shady, like not very good animation in it, but I thought that overall it was a pretty good thing. And if you don't want spoilers, go ahead and skip forward a couple of minutes because I'm going to go over something that isn't really revealed in the trailers, but I thought it was a good twist and a good take on the DC universe in an apocalypse situation. So spoilers coming in right about now. So usually what happens in the DC universe is post apocalyptic is Superman is either out of the question or he is part of the villain. Like the Dark Side took over Superman and he's now corrupted his mind. Blah, 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 blah. Or Injustice, the Superman goes crazy and decides he wants to kill everybody. What they decided to do with this is take the powers away from Superman because Darkseid put liquid kryptonite in him and then took Batman and then gave Batman the authority to control his army. So basically Batman is like the tactical leader of Darkseid's army and Superman is building the resistance to try and go against Darkseid to overthrow his authority and overthrow his power. And I thought that was cool. That's a very good. I thought it was a very good, unique way to do it, because everyone. It's always Batman. It's the Resistance because he's such a tactical, brilliant leader. But to throw that to the enemy and have Superman as a depowered, trying to still inspire that hope, still trying to build that resistance, but not as tactically inept as Batman is. I thought it was a really good take on it. It was a really good way to twist the whole pretty much way that it's always been done. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wasn't that interested in the movie until you started telling me about this and how they kind of swapped Batman and Superman's roles in this apocalyptic setting.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's got me like really intrigued. I might watch it in a day or two.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. I recommend it. It's not the best, like the animation still is like 15 frames per second, but it's still I like the way they did the story. And a kind of a funny note. So as everybody's been doing right now, I got on YouTube. I started watching some videos. Commercials happened before the videos. There was a commercial for Donald Trump's birthday, but it was playing Christmas music. It was playing like "Deck the Halls," and I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. Like, is someone on his ad team actually trolling, or did they really mean to play Christmas music? Is he trying to suggest that he's Jesus? I'm not sure what's going on there.
You know, it would be almost acceptable if it was at least July.
Yeah, yeah. It's we're still in
Yeah.
May. May's like 6 years long at this point.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this is the MCM Weekend Chat podcast. If you would like to interact, you can go to mcmdebates.com. mcmdebates.com. There is a form at the bottom of the page where you can put in your questions, thoughts, concerns, or ideas for the show. Any recommendations, anything you'd like us to talk about, anything you want to know, we'll look into it and we'll do our best that we can do to answer those questions. So, we're going to start off and end the podcast with questions, thoughts, concerns, or ideas from the audience. And the first one that we have is from our good friend Andre, the future DC Warrior Cool on YouTube. Our good friend Andre is the subject is I'm a Nolan cuck. And he says, I'm a fake DC fan. I love Disney and Marvel. Nolan's Batman was the best Batman. Ben Affleck sucks as Batman. Snyder is a hack. Batman and Robin was the worst Batman movie ever made. Justice League was a horrible movie. So I appreciate you
All right.
coming out, Andre, and exposing yourself like this.
Very brave.
Very brave. You got anything to add to that other than the
Uh,
confession? It's great.
I agree with every single word of it.
Okay. Yep. I agree too. All right. Question number 2 comes from Jared. Jared. He has 2 first names. And the subject is 100 of me versus 100 of you. If 100 of me fought 100 of you, who do you think would win? Who do you think would lose? Well, I don't know if you're directing that specifically at me or both of us, but I'll tell you right now that Dylan and I don't need 100 of us to beat the shit out of 100 of you. I think
Yeah.
that we would both just decline to have 100 of us and just beat the crap together because we have a mutual respect for each other, unlike
Right.
what I have for you, and we would just team up and beat the crap out of 100 of you. So we don't need 100 of ourselves. We would high five standing over the corpses of your defeated army
Mm.
of 100 Jareds. Anything to add to that?
Yes. We're gonna make soup bowls out of your skulls.
Yeah, and sell them on uh, eBay.
MCM debates.
Yeah, MCM debates. There's only 100 limited time.
Limited offer only.
Yep. All right, we got a question from NVB. He wants to know the future of cinema. With the recent pandemic leading to social changes, what will become of cinema? As tradition dictates, I'll go ahead and kick it off to you, Dill. What do you think?
Well, I assume this question is involving theaters, right?
Yep.
And so,
Yeah, that's what I think he means by cinema.
yeah, I think an important thing to point out is that the streaming service or the releasing straight to streaming is going to be a much bigger contender from now on. You'll go looking back at how Trolls 2 did so well going straight to streaming that AMC Theaters and another theater chain both banned Paramount from airing in their theaters. You know, a
Yeah.
huge deal. So that's, and a lot of people are going to say, well, this is the twilight of theaters. That we're seeing the last of it. But I certainly hope that that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
hope go ahead.
Yeah, I think that maybe some of the smaller theaters will close down, but like you have your AMC, which is rumored to be bought out by Amazon. You have your Cinemark, and we'll get into all that stuff later. That there's these theaters that are saying, yeah, we're going to open in July. But when I was thinking about all these smaller theaters closing down, I thought, like, back home, there's a drive-in theater. And then I was like, wait, that's a perfect answer. Redo the drive-in. Let's have the drive-in theater all over again. Like, what's the problem with that? You're socially distanced. You're contained in your car, and you can, you know, like back home, they used to have when I was a kid. You take that little speaker off of a stand and put it on your window and roll your window up. But now it is literally a what do you call it? Radio station.
Yeah, you can tune into a radio station.
Yeah, and just play it over your speakers in the car. So it's brilliant. I don't see why that's not something being considered. Is reopen the drive-in theaters, especially like when I'm like going around on my motorcycle. I'll see this like it used to be a drive-in theater, but now it's a
Mm.
junkyard. There's all these cars, trash cars in it. Pull those cars out of there, throw a projector back in that theater booth, and open it up again. It's perfect. I don't see why that's not something that's happening.
And to tell you what, with all the hipsters out there, that retro style thing, that's a big money maker right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, literally. It's you could do that. You could have your '50s diner like right
Right.
across the street from the drive-in theater, and playing some Elvis. So there you go. So I think what's going to happen though, realistically, is this is going to be some theater chains that are going to have to just change the seating layouts, and it'll be more of a unique experience and not so much of theaters everywhere. There's probably going to be fewer theaters, but they need to bring the drive-in back. It's a great idea. All right. Next question is from Lorenzo Lopez about the Ayer cut. With David Ayer and his fans posting more and more about his Suicide Squad cut and seeing its ties to Snyder's Justice League, which we'll get into later, will WB actually consider releasing it? And what are your expectations on the Ayer cut? Would you endure seeing Leto's Joker again? And I think I've said this 100 times. I didn't have a problem with Leto's Joker other than the tattoos. I like the philosophy of him being like this gang drug lord, this thug, because it fits in kind of with like a realistic expectation of how it could be in a position of power. He's kind of a big thug gang lord. I like that. It was the tattoos that kind of threw me off and the gold teeth. But other than that, I liked. Yeah, I would endure it. And will they consider releasing it? We'll get into that later. But to say something now, I'm not sure. I would like it to.
Yeah.
I would like them to right the wrongs of 2016 and release both the Ayer and Snyder cut the way they were intended, the way they were written
Right.
by the script. What do you think, Dill?
Yeah. You know, I'm also, somebody who actually enjoys Leto's performance as Joker. Somebody who's from the get go was wanting to get more of that Joker. And so like that as an expectation on the Iron Cut, I would love to see those scenes restored and then undo some of that, quick editing and this, uh, trailer music style editing
Yeah.
that happened in the film and get back to a more core film editing style, that has those full length scenes to flesh out the especially the first act,
Yep.
but then also you get the third act and the whole Joker Enchantress angle that brings and how Harley has to choose between the Joker and the Suicide Squad. I find that conflict much more engaging. So I
Yep.
expect I would enjoy the Ayer cut much more than the theatrical that
Yeah.
we got. And as far as releasing it, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm hopeful that it would get released, but I wouldn't put any money down on it right now.
Yeah. Because they did do a director's cut that threw in some deleted scenes between Joker and Harley, and it's not the difference between the theater version of Batman v Superman and the Ultimate Edition, but it makes it better. And I'm not sure that they're like they need to do that. I think they should, but
Yeah.
I think we're in agreement. That we don't know. We're uncertain. I'm not sure, but yeah, enduring Leto's Joker. Yeah, I'll do that. It's not a problem for me. I had no problem with it. All right, next one. Question. Subject is question. What do you think Matt Reeves thinks of all the Snyder Cut and Ben rumors? Dill, I'm going to pitch this one to you.
What does he think about all the Snyder Cut and Ben rumors? Well, he's working at Warner Brothers right now. He knows a lot more about what's going on with that than we do. And I guarantee you he is not concerned one bit that he's, going to get sidelined or anything.
Yeah.
They're reportedly the Batman's back in production, so all the people who are thinking that it's going to get canceled and Ben Affleck's going to take over making Batman movies and Matt Reeves and Pattinson are out. No, that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's like I don't think he's probably proud. He's probably glad that it happened because as Zack Snyder pointed out on Vero, there was a video. I don't know where it came from, but there was a video of him saying, thank you to Warner Brothers. They're back to this, studio that respects the artist. Everyone that was there during the Ayer and Snyder when they got their films hijacked, they're all gone. The only one that's still there is Tony Emmerich, and he's the one that reached out to Zack Snyder. So
Right.
I think it bodes well, and it gives more confidence to Matt Reeves that his cut will be what he wants it to be.
Yeah,
And
I think you're right. I think if anything, all this stuff gives him more faith in the studio and getting his film put out.
yeah, yeah. All right, next question from Mario. It's the Mario. And the subject is the Batman. Is the Batman going to flop? He says yes. And he wants to know why. I'll kick it off to you, Dill.
Well, I don't think it's going to flop. Now, it's a question. I mean, you could pose the question, how well will it do? And we can go back to Batman Begins. Batman Begins is not a huge financially sound film or financially great film. What did it make? $370 million at the box office, right?
Yep.
And I believe the first time we recorded this, you pointed out that it was actually the DVD sales that prompted Warner Brothers to greenlight a second Nolan Batman movie.
Yeah, because the DVD sales were so humongous, they were like,
right.
We cannot deny him a second movie. And it was,
Yeah.
I think it was the failure of Batman and Robin, which Andre had admitted is the worst Batman movie ever made. That the majority of the audience doesn't follow this stuff like anyone listening to this podcast would. They just know that the last Batman movie sucked. They don't want to see the new one. But then when they find out that the new one is good, then they want to see another one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a case like when you look at Man of Steel and you people will say that Man of Steel underperformed. It's like, it's a new movie. I mean, if you have that standard that these are established characters, the audience knows them, these should be making huge amounts of money. Then look at Robin Hood and other characters like that. Robin Hood has never had a huge box office presence, despite being made over what, like 8 times,
Yep.
and having really, really beloved renditions.
Yep. Like
It's
the Kevin Costner Robin Hood's probably one of the greatest movies ever made.
right, and I love that movie, right?
Yep.
And then I had a soft spot on the Russell Crowe one. It wasn't quite what I wanted, but I felt it was good enough. I would have liked the sequel if they would have went for it. But bringing it back to Batman, I don't need this movie to make $1 billion to feel justified in it being good, or nor should Warner Brothers need it to make $1 billion to give it a sequel. It just needs to make enough. Like 300 and something million. That's fine. I mean, what is the budget of this
I don't know.
movie?
I don't know. It's really cheap because, like I brought up when we previously recorded, just look at the costume. Most of the
Right.
stuff on the costume you can buy off Amazon. The cowl, the cape, the chest piece, that's all custom. But if you look at the gloves, you look at the forearm stuff, that those are like rubberized samurai shuriken,
Yeah.
which they wore, and I kind of like that they did that. They based his armor off of something in reality, which was what samurai did. And most people
Right.
say, "Oh, that's the ninja thing." No, it's what the fucking samurai did, jackass. But
Yeah. And
they they had
and then
it.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's there. It was the reason it was there is they had the shuriken there, those like knife dagger things that you can throw.
Yeah. On the
Is
forearm.
Yeah, you didn't really throw them. It was more like if you got in close, you're doing your judo. You could like stab
Mm.
the other person, and you could also block. And that's I think that's what it's meant to be in the movie. Is something as a defense and
Right.
also as an offense when you're close.
And another thing that you pointed out about that was the little traditional forearm blades that Batman has.
Yep.
They're actually these nylon straps
Yeah, yeah,
that
that's
go
the
through.
nylon straps that they have them the small one, the slightly larger, and the big one instead of the fins. Like usually it's blades, like the way that I
Right.
like the way Nolan did it, where it was also kind of like a throwing dart that he could like do
Oh yeah,
something
and
and
when
shoot
when he
them out.
changed it up in the
Y-
in the Dark Knight when they redesigned it.
Yeah, so but in this movie they're just straps. They're just like nylon belts that you see that have the metal tip, and they're just that's it's like what he used to strap those shuriken to his arm, and those are just the straps coming off. It wasn't intended to be like blades or fins or whatever it is. So yeah, and like his belt is a rigger's belt, and he has like just leather, like the same leather clip holsters or magazine, whatever you want to call them, holsters. That's what is the bat belt. It's just
Right.
regular stuff. Stuff you can buy. His pants are regular tactical pants from I think Black Hawk are the pants, and the boots are the same. So
Hmm.
there's nothing that he's wearing aside from the cape, the cowl, and the chest piece that you can't buy on your own because he's wearing knee pads for his shoulder pads. I looked it up. I was like, I went through and I found the pads that he's got on his shoulders are actually knee pads.
Yeah.
So
And I
that's
think I think this
it's
film being, relatively a lower budget for being a Batman blockbuster, I
yeah,
think it being, relatively lower, I think that helps uh, go with the aesthetic and the tonality that Matt Reeves has been telling us he's been going after. He's been going after this crime noir detective story,
yep,
and this allows it to focus in on that rather than get bogged down with the spectacle and this and that and that and this. I'm really hoping that we get this really stylized noir narrative that comes across now.
yep. All right, so let's go
So,
on to the next question.
yeah,
I don't
in
want to take
short, I
more.
do not think it's going to flop, Mario.
No, I don't think it's going to flop either. It's going to be. It's going to be. It's not going to be a runaway hit, but it's going to be profitable. I guarantee you that. Next question. Senor Rodriguez. Subject is Jared is gay.
Yep.
We all knew that already. You didn't have to bring that up. Anyways, what would you add or take away from Man of Steel, or would you leave it as is? Dill, we'll go to you first because I already know what I'm going to say.
All right. First thing I'm thinking of, and I'm remembering how Zack Snyder had talked about that they had this larger, more grand, longer opening on Krypton, and I would really like to see that brought back into it. I mean, they ended up having to cut that short due to budgetary and production restraints, right? But I would like to see that expanded, you know.
Yep.
But the main thing I would like to come back is in the novelization. It brings up how when Zod is speaking to Kal-El on the ship, he tells him how essentially under Krypton culture, when Zod killed Jor-El, he took Jor-El's place as Kal-El's father. And it brings up this really interesting dynamic, between Kal-El and Zod from that moment on. And that could be something that was set up in that original Krypton opening that they had planned out, too. So, I'd really be interested in that. And, of course, that happens on that ship, and then from there on, every time they meet, that's a thread that gets carried with it. When Jor-El, when Zod deletes Jor-El off the scout ship, that could play into that conversation. I feel like that's a really big thing to add to the movie that I think could add a lot.
Yeah, I agree. That's almost going back to like some samurai, like real world stuff from the 15th century. Things that happen, you kill this guy and you take his place. I like that dynamic. It's real. I think that's a good thing to play on it too, because it would also mess with Clark's head.
Right.
He's like, shit.
That would make him. It'd make the choice even harder to deny Krypton coming back. Mm-hmm. Right.
And his decision to kill Zod.
Yeah.
Would more pain, because this is my third dad, and now I've got to kill him. So yeah, but what would I change? I think I've been pretty vocal on this. If you've ever been to the forum, in my opinion, the movie should have stayed the same, but there's little details I would change, like. The reason he's on that crab boat is he found like a news article that said there was like, corruption in the oil platforms have led to disaster, because the whatever happened, there's disasters on the oil platforms, and he intentionally got that job because he knew it would get him closer to those oil platforms. So that's something, and it plays to two factors. It plays to him being a journalist, which goes into who Clark Kent eventually becomes as a journalist. And it also plays into the fact that Clark wants to use his powers to help people. And to go back to the scene where he saves the bus, goes off the bridge, when Jonathan Kent is talking to him, and instead of saying, "What was I supposed to do, let him die?" He was like, "Well, I wasn't going to let them die, Dad." To show that alpha male, because Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are the leaders of the Justice League. That's who the whole Justice League looks up to. So I would have liked to have seen that embodiment of the leader, the alpha male, the person that is the Trinity at an early age, to establish that. And also his need to want to use his abilities to help people, because it goes into the thing of Superman, and it also goes into the journalist aspect. It checks off 2 tick marks for me. But other than that, the movie was great. Like you pointed out, what most people would see as a flaw was actually what saved the world in his
Right.
character. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, so that's 30 minutes right there on questions. So we're going to get on with the podcast. All right, now comes the part of the show where we get on to the main topics. We're going to talk about everything that's happened in the past week, all the big news. Some things we're going to talk about is theaters. Are they going to be opening in July in the United States? HBOmax, it came out, but it was not a good release, depending on who you talk to. It maybe came out limping a little bit. Henry Cavill, is he back as Superman? Is he getting his own movie? Is JJ Abrams involved? We'll talk about that. And the Snyder Cut, does it exist? Does it exist? If it does or doesn't, it's the same argument. I don't think a lot of people realize they're arguing the same thing. It's just context of what they're saying. And what's the budget? Because this budget thing has changed exponentially, in my opinion, based on some of the stuff we found out. All right. So, number one, theaters opening in July in the United States. Cineworld and Regal are planning to release a statement, or they did release a statement. It's already been released that they're going to open in July. AMC and Cinemark have started internal discussions that they would also be opening in July. Are you, Dill? Are you going to go to the theaters when they open? And what do you think about the plan to open in time for Tenet and showing older movies, just to get people in the theaters?
I for sure am going to the theaters to see Tenet.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as that plan, my local theater, it's been doing this thing where you go onto their website and they'll have a list of older movies, in family friendly category, comedy category, action category. It's about like 25 films they've got listed. And what they do is you give like 7 days in advance, you choose your film, and the only requirement is that you need 20 people minimum, and it's $100.
So you get it
And
to
they'll
yourself.
right, yeah, you'll get it to your like group, right?
Yep.
And so they'll even have concession open for you. And so literally $20, 20 people for $100 is $5 a head. That's pretty good for going to the theater.
Yeah.
So I really like that setup too. I think it's really good setup. It's not a major money maker like putting out tentpole blockbusters, but it'll definitely stave over until theaters can open up further.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's something that more theaters should continue on after. We were talking about earlier. What's the future of cinema? This is a way that you can constantly keep revenue coming in. You have these big watch parties.
Yeah.
That people can set up in advance like this.
Well, so
I think you keep like 1 or 2 studio rooms open solely for that category, solely for parties to come in and watch a movie together. I think that's a smart idea. I think that's a good way to go.
yeah, yeah, I agree, and it's like the theaters here that where I'm at have not done that, but the theater that I like the most, it has like these electric leather reclining chairs. It's not a big chain. It's kind of a smaller chain. And I'm kind of worried about whether or not it'll open again. But they've decided to do curbside pickup for like popcorn and nachos and the chicken fingers because they'll serve that stuff to you. You can order it and tell them your seat because all the seats are pre-assigned. And I think that's how they're going to get around it is they're going to do pre-assigned seats and then just skip. So it'll be like, hey, we're going to show Tenet. I think they have 10 screens. So we're going to show Tenet in 8 out of the 10 screens, but we're only going to let it have a 50% capacity or a 25% capacity or whatever. But that's how I think the theater that I want to go to is how they're going to approach it. Yeah. They're just going to have limited seats, and they're going to do the curbside pickup if you want your popcorn and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I was saying last podcast, talking about the 25 to 50% occupancy, and how Tenet has no competition right now. So they can open up many of their studio rooms to play Tenet. So like instead of maybe 4 studio rooms in your regular size theater that would be opened up to a single movie,
Yep.
right? You got like 12 now.
Yeah. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that? It's the new
Yeah.
movie. It's the new hotness. It's the only thing out
Uh-huh.
there right now. So if you're like a 16 screen cinema, just go ahead and say, hey, we're going to have 14 of these 16 screens for Tenet. The other two or other movies will play like Avatar or
Yeah.
Jurassic Park on those. But the rest of them, the majority, let's do that and we'll do a limited seating capacity. So to me, that's a great idea. If not doing drive-ins, I still think they need to do drive-ins.
Well,
It's the hip thing to do, man. Daddy O.
Larry, when I come back from deployment, me and you are gonna start a drive-in theater, okay?
Yeah, yeah. We'll build it up. We'll throw it up. All right.
We'll get
Number.
some of the we'll get some of the ethnic members to come in and do the food for us.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Number two. Question two. HBO Max. It happened. I have it. I was always going to have it because I had HBO Now, so I just transitioned over. But it came out limping in a lot of people's minds. To me, it kind of did. I'm not dissatisfied with it because it's more than what I had for the same price of what I previously had. But here's some notable complaints from customers and reviewers. Many of the promised movies are not there. There's no Nolan films. None of the Nolan Batman films are on that service. There's no Superman movies on that service, and they promised that. Well, there's Batman v Superman, but there's Man of Steel, the Christopher Reeve movies, the animated Superman movies. They're not on there. It's not on Roku or Amazon Fire. So Roku has 40 million units in the U.S. alone, and it's not available on that platform. So that's a big misstep. Amazon Fire TV, I couldn't find the numbers, but I'm sure that Amazon Fire TV has a lot of people because a lot of people have Amazon Prime. It's one of the biggest subscription services for delivery and for entertainment in the U.S.
Yeah.
There's no 4K, which they didn't have 4K before, but okay, there's no 4K. There's no real draw for original content. There is there's like a Elmo show
Yeah,
that's like a kids talk show, and let me just bring up Love Life with Anna Kendrick. So there's that. It's like a love kind of like drama show. Looney Tunes, which is probably the best one.
Yep.
Uh, Legendary, well, I don't even know what that is. On the Record, I don't know what that is. And Craftopia, I don't know what that is. So they didn't put any effort into explaining what these originals are other than Looney Tunes and Elmo. And like Love Life, I'm not interested in that. And Elmo, I'm in my 30s, man. I don't want to see I don't want to see that stuff. The UI there's no joke. The layout, there's the UI and the layout is kind of horrible, but it's the same way that it was for HBO Now, which wasn't very good. I thought they would change it, and like you were saying about the aspect ratio, you were hoping
Right.
that they would add that.
Yeah, because I noticed when I was on Netflix, I was going to put on The Dark Knight, and I noticed from the get go that they weren't using the IMAX ratio for the opening bank heist, right?
Yep.
And it kind of I was like, it kind of threw me off. I didn't really want to watch it after that. And so I was wondering, like, for all these original, Warner Brothers pictures that have these specific aspect ratios, because it's not just about the changing aspect ratios. A lot of these streaming services aren't giving the original aspect ratio for the film. They'll
Yep.
give the 6:9 kind of standard TV ratio to films that are kind of close to it, and they'll give a specific widescreen ratio that might not be the actual widescreen ratio of the film. So I'm wondering, if Warner Bros. Has full ownership of these films, I'm hoping that you'll actually get these aspect ratios as it was intended.
Yeah. But everything seems to be like the basic what it was in the theaters. Because people are complaining that Batman v Superman
Oh yeah.
is not the Ultimate Edition, it's the theatrical version, which I've never saw. I've never seen the theatrical version. I didn't have availability to go to a theater when it was in the theaters. So the first time I ever saw it was the Ultimate Edition. I was like, why would I buy the shorter, shitter one? I'm gonna buy the longer, better one. So that was the first, and I don't know what that movie looks like, but people are complaining about that, and it's a valid complaint. Though I think everyone that is complaining has already seen both versions, so I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's only available in the U.S. and it's going to come to Europe, and I say quotations around Europe, and Latin America in 2021. The reason I say quotations around Europe because it will not be available in the UK. If you have HBO Now or HBO Go and you live in Europe, then you will get it. If you don't, which the UK doesn't, you're not going to get it. So I don't know, maybe Germany has HBO Now, so they're going to get it, but France doesn't, so they're not. I don't know. But if you have HBO Now and you live in Europe and you're listening to this, you will get it in 2021. But if you don't, you will not get it in 2021. Talked about the Superman stuff. The classics, that was one of the things that drew me into it because there's like some old samurai, some foreign films, and like Casablanca. Like there's stuff like that I wanted to see. But they had some weird choices. So when you go into classics, there's Big Top Pee-wee. There's What About Bob? There's Armageddon. There's the Pearl Harbor with Ben Affleck, which was a horrible movie, that are in the classics. They labeled it as the Criterion Classics before it launched, but when they launched it, it was like, oh, these are Turner Classic Movies. And
I'm going to disagree. Pearl Harbor is my favorite movie ever.
Oh, is it?
No, it's not my favorite, but I do enjoy that movie.
Okay, I didn't like it. I thought it was like, what? How do you do Pearl Harbor and make it this bad? I saw that movie, and like me and a buddy of mine, we like I bought the DVD because I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. It's Ben Affleck. Because I've been a Ben Affleck. This is like back then I was a Ben Affleck fan. I was like, it's Ben Affleck and it's Pearl Harbor, it's history, and we watched it.
He was the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
Yeah. And we watched it and we were like, this is fucking horrible. This is stupid. How do you make them? But I mean, everything's subjective. If you liked it, you liked it. I didn't like it personally for me. All right, so one of the summaries that I saw for HBOmax was it's basically HBO with Friends and Rick and Morty. That was a review that I saw. I don't get why they heavily put like Man of Steel in the thumbnails and some of the trailers, and it's not available. Why would you do that? Like I said, there's no other than Batman v Superman and the shitty Justice League movie. There's no Superman content on there. The old Supergirl movie is on there, so maybe they should have used that. I don't know. It just feels kind of weird to me to heavily advertise Superman and not have any of his stuff. But all the old Batman movies, Batman, the 89, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, all those movies with George Clooney, with,
Right.
What's his face? You know what I'm talking about. They're all on there. But here's some stuff that is on there that I didn't expect. Mad TV, Fresh Prince, Whose Line Is It Anyway? The Flintstones, The Jetsons, Johnny Quest, Yogi Bear, Scooby Doo, Peanuts, Popeye, Tom and Jerry, and some UK content like Doctor Who and the UK version of The Office. So,
Right, and that's a really impressive slew of series.
yeah, yeah,
Like that's not only there's really good quality shows, but those are shows that you're not going to really find on other streaming services.
exactly. Like, if you've never watched the Flintstones, the Jetsons, or like Yogi Bear, they're they're kind of a more of an adult audience because back then in the 60s, they knew the parents had to sit there because there's only one TV in a household. So they had to make it for the whole family. So there's like adult jokes for the dad that has to sit there and watch his snot-nosed brat watch Yogi Bear. So those, I think that was a good choice. You put that in there, and it's more of a broader audience. Same with whose line is it anyway? You know, Mad TV. That was a great show. I don't know why it got canceled. I guess nobody watched it because they're stupid.
Yeah, it was much better than SNL was.
Oh yeah, it's more gritty. Like there was stuff on there. I was like, whoa, they went there. Yeah. So, and it also brings up an interesting point of okay, so you have DC Universe and you have Crunchyroll. DC Universe is their all the DC stuff, um, so that Titans is on there, but where's Titan season 3 gonna come? Because Doom Patrol was a DC Universe original. Now it's coming to HBO Max. Stargirl, what's going to happen with that? So what's going to happen with HBO Max and DC Universe? What's the relationship going to be there? And also like Crunchyroll, they only have like 12 titles. Crunchyroll has this huge library of anime, but they only brought like so what was the point? Like it's not a big draw because if you're an anime fan, there's no reason to get HBO Max. But if you have HBO Max, now you have 12 movies or TV shows you don't really care about. Like that was kind of confusing. Like if you're going to add a service, just do the service.
Right.
And maybe it's distribution rights, I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. Dill, you got anything else for that?
Well, my take on the overall launch is why did they even launch it right now? Because number one, in my opinion, I've said this about the DC Universe streaming platform. It's like your layout and your user interface are your bread and butter for these streaming services. Because it doesn't matter how much people actually watch what's on your thing. What matters is that people are spending time on your service.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the great things that Netflix has. Netflix, I could spend, on a bad day, I could spend 3 hours looking for something to watch on Netflix. But you know what? I spent 3 hours on Netflix that day. I was just scrolling through it. And then, I think Amazon Prime has the second best interface and lookup, but it's not near as fluid.
Yeah.
And then Disney Plus, I think Disney Plus is worse than Amazon Prime, but it's manageable. I haven't used HBO Go, so I can't really say. But you said it's lacking in that department, and the layout is very important. You want to be visually drawn. You want to be able to see where things are. You want to be able to get. I remember when we recorded this the first time, you talked about how hard it was to actually search.
Yeah. Like if you want to watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, the only way to find it is actually type it in to the search.
Right, and
because
that's a problem with Hulu. That's a problem with Hulu when you have to type it exactly as it is.
Yep.
To get the actual show up. Like if it's a show that has 5 words in it, you better spell it correctly. You better capitalize what needs to be capitalized, and you better punctuate where it needs to punctuate.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, if it's Whose Line Is It Anyway, you type in who, you're not going to get a bunch of titles that have who's in it. You're going to get a bunch of random crap.
Yep.
I don't understand that. Like that's something like, streaming platforms need to be easy. They need to be simple. They need to be intuitive
Yeah.
in that front. And the
Well,
second thing I'm going to go into is on why I think why it's kind of frustrating that it came out as it is that they promised all this content and they've given what like 30%, 40% of that content
yep.
to you, and I don't have a problem with that if it you know if they were straight up forward and say, hey, we don't have all of it available yet, but when it launched, you were thinking it was all there, and so I don't know if it's a problem with it needs to be put on there or they're building a rotation. Like this is what's on here this month. Next month we're gonna switch out a few things and add these things. And if they're just straight up forward with that, I think it would have had a bigger launch than it has had.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I've been on social media and people are complaining about where are these films? The
Right.
the biggest one is, why isn't this on Roku and why didn't you tell us this? And I think that
Oh
was a
yeah.
big misstep. It was like, you knew it wasn't going to be available on that service, so why didn't you tell people that it wasn't available on that service? And that's a big misstep. And like you were saying, there's all these titles that they said, hey, this is going to be on our service. And a lot of them, they're so hard to find. Like, I didn't even know Whose Line Is It Anyway was on there until I saw a review on YouTube. And they
Really?
were talking about it, yeah. And I was like, oh shit. And I looked, I went everywhere and I couldn't find it, so I just put it in a search and it popped up. They need to figure that out. They need to segregate however they're going to do it, because they have a part when you scroll through. It's got HBO, DC, Sesame Workshop, TMC, Studio Ghibli, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Crunchyroll, Looney Tunes. Well, that's not everything you have. It's They need to figure it out. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of work to go on that. But an interesting note. This kind of isn't related to it, but it is. Remember the DCEU Variety reported that that was an official term. It was an article that someone wrote and it just took off. Well,
Right.
apparently,
The author came up with that name just
yeah,
for that article.
yeah. Well, apparently, they have embraced that, because every
Mm-hmm.
post Man of Steel movie on HBO Max is referred to as the DC Extended Universe. So it looks like it's official now. That is officially what they're going to call the
Yeah.
DC movies going forward. It's the DCEU. So I just thought that was interesting. So now it's official. It's not Worlds of DC or whatever it was reported to be. It's actually
Hey, I
going to
forgot
be,
about that.
yeah, it's actually going to be the DC Extended Universe. The DCEU is official, apparently, according to HBO Max.
That
Uh,
dude who coined the name, he should be asking Warner Brothers for some coin right now.
yeah, yeah, sue him. Sue him. All right, number 3. Is Henry back as Superman? Henry Cavill, who I know that I'm a fan of him as Superman. I think you are too.
No, I love the dude.
Yep, and we want to see him as Superman again. So this is from Deadline. So Deadline started this, and a lot of other websites kind of ran with it. But this is the original article saying, when I say we, Deadline, we hear Cavill could come back in a couple of different ways, though not in a standalone film. But there are plans to put him in the big red cape again, sources with knowledge tell us. Warner Brothers is not developing a Man of Steel sequel. A Wonder Woman 1984, Suicide Squad are in the can. So according to them, there's no Man of Steel sequel. Wonder Woman's done. It's not going to be in that. Suicide Squad's done. It's not going to be in that. Superman isn't expected to make a cameo in the Batman either, because I think we both agree that might be outside of the DCEU.
Yeah, I
Other,
definitely believe that's outside of the DC. It's essentially like Joker.
yeah, it's probably going to be like Joker. All right. But other projects where he could make a cameo is Shazam 2, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock's Black Adam, or Aquaman 2, which are prepped once to start production once this whole COVID stuff, and it has been lifted.
Right.
So there's Shazam 2, the Black Adam movie, and Aquaman 2. They reached out to Warner Brothers. There was no comment. So, from my point of view, not putting him in Suicide Squad is a major misstep because you have the Suicide Squad. They're all from Belle Reve. They're these criminals. Right. They did their job, and now Superman shows up and is like, well, guess what, boys and ladies? You're going back to jail. You did a good job, but I got to turn you in because that's my duty. Like, that's to me, that's like a corny Superman trope that you could have done.
Right, and you can have Harley Quinn use the Boy Scout moniker, have that little banter between them two.
Yeah, because they're such polar opposites. I think that would have been a great dynamic they could have played with. But, all right, so that's off the table. My number 2 choice would be Aquaman 2. Because you've seen the pictures of Jason Momoa. They're at the red carpet for Justice League. He sneaks up, or Batman v Superman, I forget. And he sneaks up, and they have this bro moment where he sneaks up and he grabs him, and they wrestle around a little bit. So I think they've got a good relationship, and I would like to see that. And they could play off of that in Aquaman 2. Have this moment between Aquaman and Superman where they're not really rivals, but they're kind of like trying to one-up each other. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember last podcast we got to talking to this, and it just came to me like what I would really want to see in Aquaman 2 is bring back that geopolitical aspects that we had in Batman versus Superman that really drove the plot and the atmosphere, and because you have what happened at the end of what was going on in Aquaman was Orm was trying to attack the surface world, and so now you got this. There is an established tension between Atlantis, the Atlanteans, and what we think of as the world. And so I would like to see, these ambassadorial negotiations go on. And what would be really cool is you have Aquaman, Arthur representing Atlantis, coming to the surface, and then the UN chooses Superman to be their ambassador.
Yeah.
And so you have these two guys who have bonded over, this Justice League. In between Justice League, they've built this relationship, and they have this mutual respect for each other. And now they have to come together, and they have they're representing these opposing nations.
Yep.
That these nations that want different things, and there's conflict in there. And so that's the external forces are making them have to be opposed to each other. And so the internal conflict is, this is my friend, but I have to do my responsibility.
Yeah, and that's a good dynamic.
Right.
And it would go back to like the BVS type stuff. Is what is the place in the world of these heroes where we have to negotiate things.
And it doesn't have to be as moody as BVS because Aquaman and Superman could have this more jovial way about themselves, but when it needs to get serious, they have to get serious too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It goes back to that thing of, should there be a Superman? There is. Should there be an Atlantis? There is. Now we're unraveling this thing of we know this. Superman opened the Pandora's box. So now after Superman showed up, all these villains came out. Atlantis is now a thing again. So it's an interesting dynamic, and I would like to see that too.
And so, and a lot of people want to see Superman in Shazam, or The Rock wants Black Adam and Superman to fight. and I think Superman is a kind of good fit in there, but to me, Wonder Woman is so much better suited to go into Shazam's world. You have her bringing the Greek mythology with her, clashing with the Egyptian mythology. There's
Yep.
just so much story
Yeah.
there.
There's gods versus gods,
Hmm.
like literally, and I kind of resent people saying Superman is a god because he's just a guy with powers. In
Yeah,
me, that's the way I've always liked Superman, was just a guy with powers.
because I
But
feel like every time that somebody's deifying him, it's usually the villain, and it's proven wrong in the story.
yep,
Whereas you have Wonder Woman, and she is part of her own pantheon of gods,
yep,
essentially.
yeah, she was made by Zeus out of
Hmm.
sand and everything. So yeah, that's that. I agree. If I were going to do it, I would do that same thing to do the clashing of the gods and go on that dynamic of what kind of
Yeah,
who your gods are, who my gods are, where I came from,
right.
where you came from.
And you know what? I'm just thinking of that. She's in Wonder Woman. She is the actual God killer, right?
Hmm.
And then you have Shazam and Black Adam. What are they? They're bestowed with the powers of their set of gods,
Yep,
which includes Zeus, right?
yep. So yeah, that's a big conflict. That's a big dynamic. All right.
Right.
So moving on, we're staying on Superman. So according to Deadline, there's no Superman movie, no solo movie planned. However, so John Campea, who we all know, a lot of people like him, a lot of people don't. I'm indifferent. I don't have any good or bad feelings. I understood all his. When he said the Snyder Cut didn't exist, I understood exactly what he meant by that, and a lot of people hated him. But I'm not positive or negative. I have neutral feelings on the man. And I go to his content because he does know what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I'm
It's,
not the biggest fan of Campea, but I will say I have a lot of respect
yeah,
for his connection with Man of Steel.
yeah,
And he does have some. He does have some good sources that have panned out too.
yep, yep. So let's get on to that. Okay, so according to John Campea, some sources that told him in 2017 that Ben Affleck was out as Batman before Justice League came out. And Ben Affleck was like, "I'm still Batman," but we found out later he wasn't Batman. So these are the sources that told him that, and that turned out to be legitimate. And the same people that told him that the 20 to 30 million it would take to complete Justice League for Zack Snyder's Justice League is wrong. It's way more than that.
Hmm.
Well, that turned out to be legitimate too, and we'll get into that later. They have communicated to him, so these sources that have proven to be legitimate, that he knows, working in the industry he is, that there is indeed a planned solo Superman movie with JJ Abrams involved. We don't know if he's the director, we don't know if he's the producer, but he's involved in some point. They didn't know if Henry would be 100% confirmed for the role because they wanted JJ Abrams to have the freedom to choose whatever actor he wanted. But if he's going to do cameos, if he's in the talk for cameos, it's pretty much confirmed that he's going to be Superman for the
Right.
JJ Abrams movie. So I just want to pitch it to you. And taking all that in, taking that news in, what's your feelings? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, first off, I would love to have another Superman solo starring Henry Cavill. Just focus on him, focus on where he is with Lois, focus on, that journalistic nature that I know you love about
Yep.
the character. You know, I'm really looking forward to, and I'm hopeful that we'll see another Henry Cavill led Superman movie. But as far as J.J. Abrams, I think J.J. Abrams is a fantastic producer. I mean, you know, he's involved. He's involved with the Mission Impossible movies. on TV side. He's got Westworld and all this. And he's, you know, it, say what you want about him as a director, him as a storyteller. I think he brings good ideas at the forefront of the story. I feel like his negative is that he doesn't really know where to go with with a lot of those ideas. But I'll tell you, he's somebody I would love to have in a writer's room.
Yeah.
With me.
Well, as long as he's not trying to make Superman a prince, and Krypton never blew up like in the Flyby stuff. Yeah. I'm not a fan of that. There's already a story there. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It already works. But I agree with you. I would like to see him as a producer. Let's do some stuff like bring Brainiac into it or something intergalactic like that. And I think JJ Abrams, with his process, his thoughts on, like you said, he may not know where to go, but he has a great world building ideas. He knows how to build a world. He knows how to make things great, in my opinion. So, and him as a producer would lead to something like Man of Steel, where Nolan was the producer.
I'd say so.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any negatives to it, as long as he's not trying to retcon who Superman is. Leave that stuff on the cutting room floor. I don't need to hear about Superman being a prince and Krypton's alive and everything like that. But I would agree that he's a good person.
I will say, I did like, if I'm remembering correctly, Brainiac took control of Superman's son, right? And he basically had to kill his own son.
Well, that was the planned sequel for Superman Returns.
The Superman Flyby. Or was that Superman Flyby?
No, or was that Superman Flyby was the one where Krypton didn't blow up. Superman was a prince, and he got sent to Earth because the rival clan or whatever wanted to kill him, so he wouldn't be king. That was Flyby. The one where his son was this got taken over by Brainiac was the sequel to Superman Returns. Because if you saw Superman Returns, he has a son.
All right.
Yeah. He knocked up Lois Lane before he disappeared. And then Lois Lane married Cyclops from X-Men. And so that's his stepfather, is Cyclops from X-Men. And Superman comes back, and so that was the pitched sequel by the child rapist.
It is a poor guy, from the X-Men movies to Superman Returns to Enchanted. He just got gypped over with the love interest, didn't he?
Yeah, like Wolverine stole his woman, Superman stole his woman, and what was the other Enchantress who like stole
Grey's Anatomy dude.
Yeah, Grey's Anatomy dude stole his woman. Yeah, he's cucked. He's permanently cucked.
He's a cuckold.
Yeah. All right. So going back to Superman and Cavill, is he going to be that? So Justin Kroll, who works for Variety, is it Variety that he works for?
I believe so.
Yeah, he's a good scooper. He's almost always legitimate. So to contradict John Campea's story, he was like, Cavill's return is only a cameo and will likely have him appearing in a film where he has ties to the previous characters, Aquaman, Shazam. Yeah. Sources say not for Black Adam, not for Wonder Woman. New Man of Steel film is still way off, and certainly Henry would not return to star. So he's saying it's just for a cameo, and if they do a new Superman movie, he's not going to be in it. What's your thoughts? Going through everything we talked about, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm looking at this Instagram post that Henry Cavill put up, and the dude is huge.
Yeah, he's yoked. Huge. He is yoked. Like, I know he's getting ready for Witcher,
Right.
as well. So you got to take that into account. But he's bigger in that silhouette than he was in The Witcher. So what is he getting ready to do?
You know, and it's not like he's gonna get yoked like that just for a 3 minute, 2 minute cameo on a movie.
Yep.
That's like 3 months preparation right there.
Yeah. And the post is "Hello, old friend," and it's him taking a picture of himself in a mirror, and you can see his silhouette, and he's huge. He is. He looks like he's fucking serious about something, and he's not joking around. So I don't know. It like I said, he's still doing The Witcher. He's got that movie where he's the brother of, or he's Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah, I forgot that movie's coming out. Isn't the Stranger Things girl?
Yeah,
Isn't she
Millie Bobby Brown.
Millie Bobby Brown?
Yeah, she's his sister, and he's kind of like a side character. He's got that. He's got Witcher season 2, but he's getting ready to do something. And people, if he's wearing the blue T-shirt, the blue tank top.
Yeah, that he loves to do with the Superman working out.
Yep. So everyone's like, "Oh my God, what does this mean?" We don't know. But Humberto Gonzalez is doubling down that there's no Superman movie even being considered.
Mr. Fan Art himself, huh?
Yeah, Mr. Fan Art himself with Heroic Hollywood. Uh, Everything he does is fan art. So whenever I looked at some tweets, so RPK, was that dude? He's his picture is like Batman on a shark, or something like that. But when he tweeted out a picture of Henry Cavill as Superman, Humberto Gonzalez replied with a laughing gif. And he's been disparaging, like everyone from Grace Randolph to John Campea. He's been disparaging and saying, "You don't know what you're talking about." And he made a YouTube video saying the Solo movie will not happen according to his sources. His sources are telling him that it's not going to happen at all.
Apex scooper. So
Yeah. So who knows? So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna be biased, and I'm gonna let my biases be hopeful in Campea's sources.
Yeah.
That we are getting a Superman Solo.
Yeah,
but
I think one of the things that lends credibility to John Campea is he's not really a scooper. So why would he say something like that if he didn't have good reason to do it?
His whole online persona isn't based around scoop.
Yeah.
And yet he's had some of the more successful scoops.
Yeah, like Ben Affleck's not Batman anymore. How much is this Justice League movie going to cost for Zack Snyder? And like when he released that, he said that he called everybody he knew and was like, "Should I even talk about this on my show or not?" Like he called up Christian Harloff and was like, "Should I talk about this?" He didn't know. So I think that lends some kind of credibility to his story, that he didn't even want to talk about it. Let's say the Snyder Cut doesn't exist because there's not a fully finished, ready-to-release version of that movie. You're right. People that say it does exist because there's a 214-minute edit that Snyder did, you're right too. You're both right. You're just arguing over semantics. And that's what kind of drives me crazy about this whole thing is you're arguing the same thing, man. Like, what's the difference between your argument? The Snyder Cut exists. Why does it exist? Because Zack made a 214-minute edit. Why doesn't it exist? Because it's not finished. It's all about semantics. Everyone needs to calm down. And I saw this the other day where someone tweeted to what we're going to get into is Bob Greenplant said, "Hey, it doesn't exist." And then someone was like, "Well, Jason Momoa saw it. Are you calling him a liar?" No, he's not calling him a liar. He saw the 214-minute edit that is not finished. It doesn't have all the FX in it.
Yeah, like he said it isn't as easy as going into a vault and there's a Snyder cut sitting there to put out.
Yeah. Go ahead. Can you go ahead and read that? You want to read that that quote? Just go ahead.
Yeah, here it is. It isn't as easy as going into the vault and there's a Snyder cut sitting there to put out. It doesn't exist. Zack is actually building it, and it's complex, including new VFX shots. It's a radical rethinking of that movie, and it's complicated and wildly expensive. I'll just say, I wish it was just 30 million and stop there. It's an enormous undertaking and very complex. And his quote was sourced by IndieWire.
Yep. So it goes back to that report where John Campea, and it lends credibility to John Campea's report, because this guy here is saying for a fact that it's more than 30 million. He wished it was just 30 million, but the source that Campea has is allegedly it's around 70 million, so we don't know. But
yeah,
the fact that he said it doesn't exist, he meant a completed and ready to release form. There is an edit. There's a 214-minute edit that Zack Snyder has. And that's when people are like, well, Zack said it was done. Yeah, because he edited 214 minutes and they just need to put the score on it. They need to do the ADR. They need to do the special effects.
Right.
So if you go back, let's go back. Let's go back to the Hollywood Reporter article. One person who saw it, who saw the finished thing, described it as a car with no panels. Just a drivetrain with no seats. And it's on a hard drive in Snyder's house. So when he left the movie, he just took it. And he says, I honestly never thought it would be anything. So, that's what it exists at right now. Is this bare bones, nothing movie on a hard drive.
Yeah, I think last time we recorded this, you declared it as it's a dune buggy versus a fully fledged out Ford GT Mustang.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have like a dune buggy, that's just a frame with some seats, and you have like a brand new 2020 Mustang GT, wildly different. Okay. You can still get in a dune buggy and drive it and figure out what's going on, but you're not going to have the luxury and all the anesthetics of being in a GT Mustang. So it's two totally different things. And that's where the Snyder Cut exists right now. So, God damn it. I can't look at what's being typed right now. I'm going to have to edit this out. What the fuck? Yeah. All right, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so it's what people think is going on with Zack Snyder's Justice League and what the reality is around Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think, are two polar opposites. And there's another feeling that I have. I also think that a lot of people making these arguments are not that stupid. They know that it's not done, and they're just being argumentative for the sake of being argumentative. I can't figure out why else would you say, what do you mean? Are you calling Jason Momoa a liar? Why would you say that? You know it's not finished. Zack said it's not finished. Right. If you go on his Vero, he says, I never got to finish this. And he shows like some art. And he shows pictures of like, who played Cyborg?
Ray Fisher.
Ray Fisher. He shows pictures of Ray Fisher in his suit, not in finished cyborg metal, but like his pajamas with all the little tracking dots and stuff on it. So we know it's not finished from the man himself. So I don't know where this whole it's scored with full CGI and everything came from. You got any thoughts?
Not on that. I think you covered it really well.
Yeah.
There's a few more things to add with all the Snyder Cut discussion that's going on. Like, Ryan Reynolds' rumor that he'll reprise his role as Green Lantern.
Well, before we get there, I want to bring something up. So, it's said. So, what Bob Greenblatt said was there would be new visual effects shots. He didn't say reshoots. He said new visual effects shots. Snyder stated he never finished the ending where Wonder Woman cut off Steppenwolf's head on Vero. That was one of the things I was talking about, where he just put some art up. Grace Randolph is holding firm that reshoots will take place, though she cited something from the Hollywood Reporter article saying that this is evidence that this is going to happen, but I don't believe that holds true. So here's what she posted. She said, Snyder also spent April and this month reaching out to the sizable cast, giving everyone a heads up of new development and letting them know their services may be needed, which we know they're going to do ADR. They're going to do some additional audio recording.
Yeah. And that's contextually what that article is talking about, too.
Yeah. So we know they're going to do VFX shots. We know that Snyder didn't finish a lot of his VFX. We know they're coming back for ADR. I don't see the connection there she's trying to make.
That's the classic 2 + 2 = 5 right there.
Yeah.
What she's getting at.
Yeah. So I'm not saying she's wrong. I just don't see what she's trying to do. To be a scooper, especially right now, it's too easy to just throw something out there and it turned out to be real and you didn't have a source. We've seen that. We've seen, I don't want to name any names or throw anybody under the bus. Cedeno. I'm not trying to, but some people right now are trying to claim that, I reported this back in February of 2018. I'm obviously right about this. Calm down, okay? It's too easy to say because everyone said Snyder Cut HBOmax. Did Grace Randolph have a really legitimate source? I don't know. Was she lying? I don't know. Maybe she did. But it's too easy to say something like that and then it turned out to be true and go, well, I told you. Told you so. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I want to believe she did because she's got too much stuff right. Like the whole... We'll get into Birds of Prey. You added that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
We'll get into that. All right, so... fans, we got into the fans calling Bob Greenplant a liar because Jason Momoa saw it. So let's go into David Ayer. Someone asked David Ayer on Twitter, does your cut of Suicide Squad lead up to the invasion of Justice League? Or did you end up shooting only a version against the Enchantress? So basically what they're asking is, did his version of Suicide Squad have Steppenwolf and parademons and all that stuff like that? David Ayer responds, the script did. So he wrote it. He wrote it to play into Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Right.
But it was rewritten to remove the New Gods elements. So basically, they took out everything that connected Suicide Squad to Justice League. Your thoughts?
It's so hard to wrap your head around why they would make that choice. Like they're setting out this, connected universe, and like they get two movies in, and the third movie is kind of a little off to the side from Man of Steel, BVS Justice League, right? But it instead of being off to the side, it could have been bridging as a full third member going to the fourth, right? But like they throw all that connective tissue away. So instead of Batman vs Superman ending, Superman dies, Lex communes with Steppenwolf, and then Suicide Squad happens. We follow up with Superman being dead, and it's still part of the movie. It's still part of the movie as it is that Superman's death is the cause for the formation of the Suicide Squad, which is real good. But it could have gone further by having, Enchantress. She's the reason. She's how Steppenwolf comes to Earth. She's the one
Yeah.
who makes it possible for Steppenwolf to come to Earth, and then they have to face the Parademons. And so going into Justice League, Steppenwolf and the Parademons are already in an underground siege of the Earth as Justice League starts. So it gives a huge connection between the previous movies and Justice League, and it also sets the stage for Justice League, and it raises the stakes so
Yep.
much higher.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because it's right, because you lose Superman, and then you lose because the invasion has already started. So that makes Justice League. It makes it so much more important.
Yeah, like
Whereas
Snyder
the Justice
said
League
in
we
an
got,
interview that Batman was supposed to be the samurai that collects the other seven samurai. He's like that's his philosophy.
yeah,
The basis for what he wanted was the seven samurai for the one to collect them all, and it gives reason for that because he's not stupid. He's not isolated from everything. He's like, oh shit, this nearly happened. Superman's gone, and the government tried to do something. They fucking failed, and now we're gonna get invaded.
right,
Like you said, it raises the stakes and gives him more urgency and a reason to do what he needs to do.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So that was that's the thoughts on the air cut. So I want you to go ahead and introduce this next part right here
Well,
because you put it in
great,
here. I want you to introduce it.
right. Grace Randolph has been, in the replies of all this and that, right? And she had even asked, like before we get into this, she had even asked David Ayer, to hold back on, his, promoting his cut because you don't want to take away from the Snyder cut, right?
Right.
Which is, I don't know, it's kind of a goofy thing to ask. And David Ayer said something like, "What? Don't worry, it won't happen." Like, as in, either you could read it as his cut's not going to come out, or you could read it as his cut is not going to upstage Snyder's cut. You
Yeah.
could read it either way, but you know, Kathy Yan responded to David Ayer when David Ayer was talking about how his cut got warped and changed and altered by the studio. And she tells him, "I'm sorry that this happened to you. I know the pain." And well, Grace Randolph hops onto that and is like, tries to say that Kathy Yan is talking about how the Chad Stahelski reshoots on Birds of Prey took away the dick pics on the diamond that was supposed to be the huge plot device of the movie. And that's a rumor that she broke. She broke on her YouTube podcast, whatever, right?
Yep.
And so like, well, Kathy Yan completely shuts her down right there. She says that those pics were never a part of the movie. They were never shot. And then Grace Randolph tried to backpedal a bit on it, and she goes, "I thank you for the support. But let's set the record straight. They were never dick pics. You peddling a pedophilia rumor is not journalism. Peddling any gossip is not journalism. I know I was one.
Yep. And that kind of leads to what I was saying about how Grace Randolph just happened to throw something at the wall and it stuck. Because we don't know if she had a source. She could have been making this shit up and it happened to turn out to be true.
I mean, there was plenty of people who kept thinking that the Snyder Cut was going to be released with HBO Max.
Yeah, oh yeah, there was tons of people. But the thing...
I'm sure.
She knew the diamond aspect of Birds of Prey.
Right.
She got it wrong because it was originally dick pics on the diamond and they removed that. But Kathy Ann is, according to her, she's like, no, you're fucking stupid. That was never a thing to begin with. So, who knows? Who knows what the truth is right now? Kathy Ann is saying, Grace Randolph, you need to shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. And Grace Randolph is like, well, I need to remain credible. So she's, like you said, she's backpedaling. She's trying to, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry. So she's doing all this stuff because she needs to maintain her status as a scooper.
Daniel RPK, that's the dude who you're trying to think of, right?
Oh, yeah, Daniel RPK. That's the guy with Batman riding a shark.
He did the same thing in reply to Kathy Ann. And then as soon as her tweet like this came out, he backpedaled and said that's not what he said. Yeah.
So I actually like Birds of Prey better because of Kathy Ann's response. Like, I'll admit that Birds of Prey was a better movie than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. But the attitude of Kathy Ann has given me more respect for her. And
I'm looking forward to, because she's got another movie coming out with DC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really like her attitude. I really like her creative style and output with Birds of Prey.
Yeah, because one of the best moments in Birds of Prey, because one of my favorite characters in DC is Black Canary. And that moment when she did the canary cry, I thought that was to me, I was like on the edge of my seat, like, holy shit, the canary cry. We get to see it live action in a movie for the first time.
Yeah, she gave you little teases in the dialogue, and then the singing where the glass shatters was a big hint. But they save it all the way, and they make it this huge moment when that happens. Yep,
and there was a lot of complaints about having Smollett's sister or Juicy Smouillet sister as Black Canary because she's not white or whatever, but I liked her in the role. I thought she was good in the role, and I look forward to seeing her play that role again. The only one I didn't like was Huntress. That was just too much of a depart. I like the actress that they play. I forget her name, but I like
Mary Elizabeth. Right?
Yeah, she's a good actress, but I don't like the way they portrayed her. As this
Mary
kind of
Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, I don't like how they.
I felt like for a while she was too stiff. The characterization she was given was too stiff, and then at the end of it, they get goofy with her.
Yeah,
and it just didn't mesh right.
Yeah. To me, Huntress is a hard ass, and she didn't come across as a hard ass.
Yeah, so, and her when she tried to come across as a hard ass, that was the butt of the joke.
Yeah, I agree. To me, Huntress is a bitch you don't want to fuck with, and that's if you're Conor McGregor. Like, she will fuck up Conor McGregor because she's a hard ass, and she don't give a fuck because she knows what she's doing. That's Huntress to me. And she didn't come across as that. And to me, it was a disrespect to the character. I take that back. Not a disrespect, but it didn't honor the character the way that I see the character. Because there's three female characters in DC that I think are badass. Well, four. Actually, four. Now that I think about it. So you have Lois Lane, you have Batgirl, you have Huntress, Black Canary, and Katana. So that's five. Yeah. So Lois Lane, Huntress, Black Canary, Katana, and who did I say?
Uh, Batgirl, Lois Lane, Tana, Huntress. Oh,
Yeah.
dang. Who did you had a fifth one? I can't. Somebody listening to this will tell us in the comments.
Yeah. So you have Black Canary, you have Huntress, you have Lois Lane, you have Katana. So that's the four bad bitches that you don't want to fuck with in DC.
Bam, bam.
Yep.
Bam.
Bam, bam. All right. So now we come to the part of the show where we're closing everything down and we're getting to close out thoughts, final questions, concerns, and ideas from the audience. And we're going to get started. And the reason that I structured it like this is these are more of the people that are familiar with the forum. So if you made it this long, you're familiar with us. You're like Marvel Troll, who's actually sitting here listening to what we're talking about right now. So, because Marvel Troll wants to know if we're doing her.
She's got her mic off, and I can still hear her breathing.
Yeah. Marvel Troll wants to know if we do her question. Anyways, first question from NVB. Is Tom Cruise still Green Lantern? Dunlad reported that Tom Cruise is working on a movie with SpaceX and NASA. Is Tom Cruise going to be the next Green Lantern, or is it Top Gun 3? The Space Force. Love you and God bless. I don't think it's going to be Green Lantern. I think it's. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be tied to Top Gun. I think it's a totally new movie that he's going to be doing in space.
I think there was a new report that came out that said that NASA was hoping this movie would be like a major draw to, the younger audience to get back into, space programs and this and that. So in a sense, it is Top Gun Space Force, except it's, not a Top Gun sequel. It's like what Top Gun did for the Air Force. NASA's hoping this movie will do for, the space program.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's going to be any of that. I agree with you. It's a promotional thing for NASA and SpaceX because they need this. They need to build on what they already have. And I don't know. I disagree. It's not for Green Lantern and it's not for Top Gun 3. All right. Next question. Let's go to the next question. Mario asked, MCM Tards react to Snyder's Justice League. How will MCM Debates users receive Justice League or Snyder's Justice League? Please predict the bandwagon Snyder Tards and the surprising haters. I don't know.
El Kano is going to eat crow and become the biggest Snyder Tard again.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
Yeah.
And our guest commenter, when the Snyder Cut releases, it will purify his heart and he will become good again.
Oh, you're talking about the guy that's like trolling us right now?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. I think El Kano wants it to be bad, but even if it's not good, he's still going to be like, "This is the greatest thing I ever saw." He's going to do a 180, and for everyone else, I don't know how I'm going to feel. I'm really interested in the Batman and Superman aspects of it because allegedly the Superman returns and fight in the park happens way earlier in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I want to see exactly how everything played out for Superman coming back, how they brought him back. I think it's the same thing with the Mother Box, but allegedly
I believe so.
it was way earlier in the movie because everything looks like an original shoot for him coming back. So I want to know what happens with him and Lois at the farm because we already know that every line that he spoke in that movie was a reshoot because he has floaty digital lips. If he's not speaking, it's original Snyder Cut shoots. But if he's speaking, it's Justice League shoots. So that's one of the things I want to know.
I'm majorly interested in the expansions with Cyborg.
Yes.
I mean,
there's a lot more with Cyborg.
Right.
There's a lot more with Flash.
With mother.
Yep.
With his football team, we're going to see his injury. But after, we're also going to see, how massively powerful his his abilities with communing with the mother boxes. Because we saw through those leaked clips, when he's able to commune with the mother box and see its past.
Yeah.
And step
because
into,
he goes to Nazi Germany, doesn't he? Like
right,
1940s Nazi Germany.
And there's another clip where he sees a version of his future where he's up above the earth and they shoot a bunch of missiles at him. And kind of like First Class Magneto, he stops the missiles and turns them back towards Earth.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of that cool stuff that I'm really interested in. And I'm the cool stuff is, awesome on its own, but I'm kind of more interested in development with Silas Stone, his father, and his mother, and that stuff too. I'm more, because in my opinion, Ray Fisher's Cyborg was the best part of Justice League. Like somehow, he had so much stripped from him, and he still managed to keep the core of that character. And
that man, the fact that man doesn't have a fucking movie in the works is a travesty.
Right.
He's a good actor. They need to give him a movie. Give that man a movie. It doesn't have to be Cyborg. It can be anything. If you're looking for a black man to be the lead in your movie, you need to be calling Ray Fisher. Give Ray Fisher a Malcolm X or a anything like that.
Give him a Tenet.
Give him a Tenet. Like, why aren't you calling him? He's a great actor. If you, I guarantee you, after this movie comes out, people are going to be like, "Holy shit!" The emotions that he can convey. Because Zack Snyder put out the thing where he's at his mother's grave and he's like just upset and he's pounding the ground. I think we're going to see some emotional stuff from him that's going to impress people. All right. Let's move on.
The big questions.
Yeah, let's
big
move on.
Questions coming next.
Yeah. So, Nunya Business asked, will HBO ramp up its content catalog to keep to keep interest alive? Got the hiccups. I got the hiccups. We'll keep that in the podcast, not editing that out. So, will HBO ramp up its content to keep interest alive? Of course. I mean, why wouldn't you do that?
I mean, at least to just fulfill their promise, right?
Yeah. It's what kind of fucking idiot are you? What kind of question is this? Will you make things better so people will stay subscribed? Yes, of course. Like Netflix did. Like, name something that didn't make itself better so people will pay for it. Name something. Name it. What made itself worse?
The DCEU.
Or the DCU, you mean? DC Universe.
That too.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Final question from our phantom listener here, Marvel Troll. Podcast question, HBOmax. You wanna read that?
Whew. Let's see. Marvel Troll with a question. Plug my new article and alright, so if you go on to MCM debates and go on to click the little tab at the top and you'll see an item called member content. Go on there and Marvel Troll has 3 great articles right now, and I'm sure more will be coming soon.
Yeah, and I just want to add that Marvel Troll is the content editor. Just to piss off Jared. That Marvel Troll is the content editor. That's who I run the site, and I deemed Marvel Troll the content editor.
Yeah. Too bad for you, J-Red.
Yeah. I don't know why that pissed him off so bad.
Alright, so she says, with HBO Max releasing the Snyder Cut and Zack Snyder's Justice League, reportedly in talks with Ben Affleck for the Batman miniseries, featuring Henry Cavill, cameos, Superman, and teasing the Snyder Cut. Could you see them releasing the original plans for Zack's DCU in the form of multiple miniseries, possibly tying into the CW versus Crisis on Infinite Earths Flash cameo, and using Flashpoint to establish the theatrical cut of Justice League as never happened?
Okay, let's stop there.
No.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think there's a possibility for some stuff to happen on HBO Max, but to that extent, no. I don't see it. What Zack had planned for the DCU is done. And
see, I wouldn't mind them giving out the original kind of bare bones structured plan that him and Terrio cooked up.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't mind that, but as far as that extent, no, I don't expect that to happen. I really honestly don't even want that to happen.
Again, I'll say it again. It blows my mind that the plan for Zack Snyder was to have a movie where Flash goes back in time to change the future and a Flashpoint movie. Basically, Zack Snyder was like, hey, let's do a Flashpoint movie. And, let's do a Flashpoint movie on our own. So they had 2 Flashpoint movies planned. That blows my mind. Like, what the fuck? And then, the Justice League Dark movie that I saw today, the Justice League Dark Apocalypse, guess how that ends? If you don't want to know, pause it and skip forward.
I just muted you. I muted you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It ends in a Flashpoint. What the fuck? Why is everything a goddamn Flashpoint? Get to something different than that. Holy shit. The movie ends with him, with Flash, going back in time and changing things. Like, what the... okay. Oh my god. It's so fucking crazy. It's... stop with the Flash. It's like, hey, we can do whatever we want. Just have Flash go back in time and change that shit. Like... that was a good movie. I would rather see movies on how the Justice League will fix Earth after everything that happened in Apocalypse War than Flash going back in time because he ran so fast that he could go to 1988 and meet Marty McFly and change everything. Like, come on. If you're going to do your convictions, hold up to it. Especially after, again, Apocalypse War is brutal. It is so good. It is so good on how brutal it is and the way they flip the script. All right, go ahead. Dale, next line. Go ahead.
All right. Marvel Troll continues saying, in my theory, I could see Justice League Part 2 building off what's established, this and that and this. leading to the Flash and Cyborg buddy film, and completely retconning everything for theaters. With Rick Famuyiwa coming back, I guess, right?
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Yeah.
I would like to see a
I would have
Flash.
loved to see Rick Famuyiwa. I feel like I'm butchering that last name.
Yeah.
Famuyiwa.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think he would have done a really good Flash movie, and I think the rumor that Cyborg, it was confirmed that Cyborg was going to be a part of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that would have been a really interesting film.
I would rather see a Cyborg and Flash movie than a solo from either one of them. Because
I can agree with that.
I think they play well off each other. You want to do a buddy comedy. You want to do like a type of what was the movie with Lethal Weapon? You can do it like a Lethal Weapon type thing with the two of them. And I think it will work well because they play off each other real well. Their powers and everything, and Ray Fisher's attitude and Ezra Miller's attitude. I think it would work well. So yeah. All right, next.
Well, she also asked about the ultimate cut of BVS on HBOmax, and we kind of covered that, as well as is the director's cut of Suicide worth watching? And I think both of us would agree from our earlier answers previously that we both think it's worth watching.
Yeah, it's worth watching, but I'm not sure that it's going to happen on HBO Max.
Right.
Yeah. All right, next.
Continues on. I'll let it pass if they plan on tying the release with the new version of the film, unless it isn't canon. If they do release the Suicide Squad, it would be interesting if they put, like, if the Snyder Cut actually is successful, if they put the budget into it to do some VFX and some small additional shoots to pull back in that Steppenwolf parademon angle to it.
Yep.
I think, but Marvel Troll PS, Jared is a faggot. Yep. And Dill needs to drink some hard liquor because he sounds like a biatch. That hurts. I'm super sad. But you're perfectly right on Jared. PPS, can you start reviewing the wrestling in the acronym?
You don't have
to. No,
nah.
we're not.
All right, next.
Sports bar, no, we're not gonna do that either. Impact Wrestling and Power Rangers Beast Morphers, no.
Nah, I don't care.
Yeah,
no, sorry. All right.
Make your own podcast.
So, if you've made it to this point at holy shit, we are at almost 2 hours.
And we added some runtime.
Yeah. So that is it. This has been the MCM podcast. Weekend Chat. Appreciate everyone that listened.